good, y'all? My name is Kevin Kittenbrew, formerly known as DJ One Take, and I want to welcome y'all to my YouTube channel. Welcome y'all to my podcast singular episode. And because of attention spans, I'm definitely just gonna jump right into it. If you clicked on the video, the title was still working, but I definitely wanted to be within the parameters of open book. I think that we're in a time and a space, or not. I know, and what I'm observing is that we're in a time and a space of so many influencers, so many voices, so many podcasts, so many people that we can observe, but we really can't see behind closed doors. And I kind of want to open that door for my circle of influence, open that door for the people that I've known personally, people that I've come in contact with, and kind of just share my testimony, share my background, how I've gotten where I am, and kind of what has driven me to it, the steps that God has ordered my life to look like, to get me comfortable enough, not even comfortable, to get me to explain, to get me to, we'll go with the word comfortable, to get me comfortable enough to share this with whoever clicks on it. And as we kind of go through this, I want to break it down into sections. The first section, just kind of explaining why I'm doing this. And what's funny is one of the reasons I was like, I don't know about this, is because if you look at or listen to anything I've said in the past, whether it's videos of me speaking in front of people, or if you join my weekly Bible studies, or even in conversation, I'm definitely one to clown people with podcasts, because everybody has a podcast now. Everybody has a platform. Everybody has an audience. The equipment is too easy. It's too easily obtainable. And people be sending me clips, and I'll be like, man, I'm not clicking on that. I'll be seeing who it is, and I'm like, bro, no, we're not doing this. And now I think it's funny that now I'm the one that's behind the podcast mic. But yeah, I kind of want to get into why I'm doing this. So as we break it down, I'll have a verse kind of corresponding with it and lay that foundation. So first verse I want to start off with is 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 2, which reads, "You yourselves are our letter of recommendation, written on our hearts, to be known and read by all." Now, again, I think that there's just a lot of people that we can see, but not behind closed doors. And the reason I've been led to do this is because I wanted to reach people that I have a relationship with, or people that can see me and I'm reachable and attainable. And when I say reachable and attainable, I essentially mean the people that I want this to reach, the people that I want this to hear, are people that I've come in contact with, people that are either observing what I'm doing in passing, people that may have heard about me when I used to DJ, heard about me from a friend of a friend. So people that are in my circle of influence. And the goal is honestly just one. If it goes beyond that, I praise God. But I'm definitely not doing this for me, because to be honest, I really don't want to. But I'm honestly, I'm doing it for y'all. Whoever it reaches, whoever it helps. And going back to the verse, talking about how we're the letter of recommendation to what a life of Christ can look like. I want people to look at me and realize that what they're going through isn't so uncommon, which leads me to my next verse, 1 Corinthians 10 and 13. "No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind." It's so important, especially one, because I'm young. Depending on who you ask, I'm 23. I'm young, and I want to do this video because not only do I trust God to give me another testimony, like I don't want to be 60 years old talking about, man, when I was 21, let me tell you what God did for me. I trust him to keep doing bigger and better things, giving me abundant life. But also I trust him to to call back to memory, because I've told people my testimony in bits and pieces, but I'll be forgetting, bro. I'm getting older, and I'm trying to leave the past behind. I'm trying to forget what happened. Now you asking me what happened. So I'm gonna be forgetting in about 5 years, and I want to be able to be like, go to this video. It kind of breaks down each part. Now I can't tell it all. I don't got time today, and y'all need to know all that. Well, see, look, because I said open book. We just gonna keep going, and we gonna see how God moves. But yeah, I want people to see a young person speaking that this thing is possible, y'all. Like, not only is it possible, but it's good. And not only is it good, it's rewarding and it's fulfilling. No matter what it may look like, no matter what it may feel like, it's possible, y'all. So with that being said, we're just kind of going to dive right in. We're going to talk about the earlier years of my life. So we'll do elementary school up to high school. So the verse I have for that is Proverbs 22:6, which reads, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." So growing up, I was in that church. I was in church every Sunday. I got baptized when I was 10. I got the gift of the Holy Spirit when I was 14. So I was like, this isn't new to me. It's what I was accustomed to. And the reason I chose that verse is because my parents and my family in general, they were very intentional about exposing me to Christian thought and exposing me to what Christ looks like at an early age, to where the point that was all that I knew. So throughout those years, essentially I was like a grandchild of God instead of a child of God, because my relationship was just seeing what everybody else's relationship was. So it wasn't really anything personal. And throughout that time, I never had any negative like church experiences. I was blessed enough to have a great pastor, a great community. I had my cousins there, my brothers there, friends. Like it was great. Like that's kind of what I thought everybody's church experience was. So not only was it great people, it was great teaching. It was great events, and it was just overall just if it was family. When I graduated high school, when my brothers graduated high school, like the house was packed out by people from our church. So yeah. And with me growing up and going to church, like at a point, I didn't have a choice. Like every Sunday, my pops, he was waking me up. He was like, "Bro, you're going, and not only are you going, but you're going to Sunday school." So I grew up in church. Now, with that being said, once I hit maybe about high school, that's kind of where my limited perspective kind of came to an end, if that makes sense. Like all the way up into middle school, I only listened to gospel music, gospel rap. I was on Lecrae, like Triple E, all of them. And then started playing basketball, and it was like, "Hey, bro, what's your pregame music?" And I said Lecrae, got laughed out the gym. So I was like, all right, let me go ahead and check out what people are really listening to. Like, what should I be listening to? So that's when I got introduced to Kendrick. And then around Christmas time, really around this time, or around December, about 10 years ago, that's when I first heard Forest Hills Drive by J. Cole. I was like, hold on, he rapping crazy. And a few months later, Drake dropped If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. Now back to back to back. I'm like, oh yeah. Now this is what I'm talking about. So not only did I get influenced outside of church, but even in church, a lot of the people that I looked up to in terms of being close in age, a lot of people that I kind of just grew up in church with, either they may have decided to go to a different church or they graduated. So I wasn't getting that same immediate community because I'm 15. I'm not trying to kick it with a 45-year-old. Like, we can go bowling, but I'm not having fun. So, yeah, I'm not saying that I started wilding out, but my interest and what I wanted to focus on definitely changed. Jumping into once I hit high school, like I was saying, like my transitions changed. I moved away from basically what I knew but it was definitely like on the low. Like, cause I still live with my parents. Like, I got caught listening to J. Cole one time. Wasn't a good experience. It may have been track 4, Forest Hills Drive. It's like, what are you listening to, son? So I was looking around. My friends not really doing what needs to be done. I don't see anybody in church doing what needs to be done in terms of my age group. So I'm like, this obviously isn't possible. So I'm starting to get some tension between what the world is offering me versus what the church, I'm not even going to say Christ, because my mindset was essentially, my eyes were only on the church because I didn't know Christ the way that I needed to know him. So it was either what the church was giving me or what the world was giving me. And I'm in school 5 days a week. I'm in church 3 hours. And I got my license now. I'm leaving early. So, yeah, the influence of my friends, the influence of social media, me being on the game all the time, like, my interest just changed. And it's not even like I was doing anything wrong, because I was still like, I had some sense. I knew when enough was enough and what was too much, but I just wasn't interested in the things I was interested in terms of what God was offering. So towards my senior year, well, I didn't go all the way in. So throughout high school, freshman to junior year, I was just very insecure. And I just wasn't like, I mean, I was cool, but like, I wasn't cool for real. So senior year, well, towards the end of my junior year, got my braces off. Changed my haircut. I had some afro dreads. It was like freeform, wasn't it? I was listening to J. Cole, led me astray with the haircut. Then I got a drop fade, was looking good. And then started hooping every day after school. So that baby fat, that weight that I had got dropped. So now we good. I'm confident when I look in the mirror, and the music that I'm listening to is making me delusional enough to make me think that I'm Drake. So my senior year, my confidence levels are through the roof. But no one else got that memo. So it wasn't like I was a nerd, but I just wasn't who I thought I was. But I was acting like I was who I thought. So towards the end of senior year, people were doing reflections. They were just talking about how great high school was. But I was like, this wasn't so great. So I was looking towards college. And throughout all of high school, I'm kind of getting a window into what college looks like because of my brothers. And I'm like, you know what? This look all right. I'm like, I think college is where I'm going to flourish. So I graduated high school, 3.9 GPA, had to throw that in there. And then whatever holidays in May, whether it's like Labor Day, Memorial Day, one of those two, I'm blanking on which one, there was a cookout. It wasn't even a cookout for real. It was kind of like a small little day party at my brother's frat house. And like I said, I wasn't like the most cool dude in high school. So I'm thinking there weren't parties in high school, but the whole time I just wasn't getting invited to them. So this is my first environment where I'm like, okay, there's women here. There's a splash of alcohol. I like the music that's being played. So I walk in. I don't even walk in. We on the porch. I walk up. I'm just talking. I ended up. I'm not gonna say no names, but I walk up. There's a young man that comes up to me. He was like, "Hey, bro, heard you just graduated high school." He's drunk. I smell the liquor on his breath. I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Bro, this whole party is for you." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I needed to hear." And he was like, "Bro, you trying to celebrate?" And I'm like, "You know what? Yeah, let's celebrate." So I poured me a shot of 1800. I remember what it was because it was so strong, burnt my chest. Take a shot of 1800. I stop. Legs get wobbly. Music sound great. And I'm feeling like Drake. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is what it's all about. Now, lucky for me, or unluckily for me, my pops is on the way to pick me up. So I take that one shot. I'm feeling like I'm in a woozy jacuzzi. So my pops picked me up. I get in the car and I'm like, it's May. I got about three months to prepare myself for college. I'm going into it with the mindset of this is what I need. So as we get into the college years, the verse that I have is Philippians 4:13, which is Philippians 4:13 reads, depending on which version you have, for I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength, or I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And the reason that I chose that verse for ages 18 to 21 when I'm in college is because that's y'all's favorite verse. It was my favorite verse at the time too. And the way that I interpreted it was similar to when I was talking about Christian rap, like Lecrae and Tripoli or Andy Mineo, versus Kanye West's song Jesus Walks. So in my head, those are both Christian rap songs. But if you really listen to what's being said, Christian rap, they're talking about how no matter what life looks like, I'm going to follow Christ. But when you hear Jesus Walks, it's no matter what Kanye doing, Jesus is walking with him. So it's a difference between following Christ and Christ following me no matter what I'm doing. So when I would hear that verse, I'm like, I'm doing all this stuff and Christ giving me the strength. I'm unstoppable. But whole time, the stuff that I'm doing, he's not co-signing. But I've made it up in my mind that whatever that I'm doing wouldn't be happening if God didn't want it to happen. So again, I have about maybe 3 months to prepare, 3 months to be like, I'm going to college, May, June, July. I just spend that whole time just preparing myself, just getting new clothes, getting new mindset, just trying to mature, knowing that I can go in with a blank slate. So I had the privilege of moving in early. Shout out to the transitions program. So I was there about 3 days earlier. And during those 3 days, my roommate moved in. That's my guy. Again, I'm not trying to use no names. We were there for the first day. It's just great. It was a great experience moving in. It was a great experience overall. Like, it was just, for those who went to college, your first semester freshman year is kind of like, it's like a sitcom and it's like a TV show, because the stuff that you see and you can't write. It was just crazy. So the first 2 days, I'm like, this is what I want, and it's obtainable. So I remember this clear as day. It was nighttime, my first or second day there, and I prayed and I asked God, Lord, if you give me these 4 years of college, as soon as I graduate, I'm gonna get back right. As soon as I graduate, I'm like, give me these 4 years, God, and then you got me. And I prayed that prayer, and I forgot that I prayed that prayer. So as soon as I got up the next morning, it was I was gonna make the best of my 4 years. So I got fully immersed. Again, I can't tell it all, so we're gonna kind of keep it pushing in terms of the college years. Freshman year, I was getting invited to all the kick-its because, one, I'm a freshman and we was turned up, and also my brothers was fifth years, so I knew them. So the whole range, I was there. But as soon as I touched down on campus, I was known as Lil Kennebrew or Baby Kennebrew because my brothers was doing their thing. And I'm like, this can't be. I came in here with a plan. I came in here with not an agenda, but I have an agenda. And I'm not about to be known as Baby Kennebrew. So I did everything in my power to make sure that when people think of Kennebrew, they think of Kevin Kennebrew. And once I thought about that, I've decided that everything that I do is to fit into the mission of people need to remember me once I graduate. Every move that I make was like, is this going to make me memorable? I wasn't worried about getting that degree. I was a communication major. I was getting that degree regardless. So I'm like, no matter what I do, I want people to remember me when I graduate. When I'm gone, I want to leave a legacy. And it was all pride and ego. But the whole time, I'm still insecure. So to kind of mask that insecurity, because in high school, I wasn't known as that guy, it's like I'm about to be that guy in college. So again, freshman year, I just kind of do everything that will leave my name in the history books in my mind. So I started DJing freshman year, went great. I ended up pledging in my frat second semester, then COVID hit. Um, Sophomore year, COVID hit, and it didn't really slow me down. You think it would, but it just caused for me to have more intimate gatherings, and for me to, because we was still kicking it in COVID if you was in college, and that's kind of when I realized, okay, this is pretty easy. People coming out in the pandemic, they coming out when the pandemic is over. So we kicking it sophomore year. I'm really getting to know people because it's all kickbacks, it's no big parties. So heading into sophomore year, or heading into junior year, so I'm halfway done with college at this point. Heading into junior year, I'll say that was my peak in terms of parties, in terms of prominence, in terms of people kind of knowing who I am. And what kind of confirmed it is I'm name dropping him because that's my guy. I was talking to my boy Trey, and we were talking about the Bible study that I do now, or we were talking about the Bible study that's going on now at UC. He said it's a beautiful thing, man. And I was like, man, I was like, man, I wish we had a Bible study when we was there. He was like, bro, I tried to start a Bible study, and I was like, where was I? And then he said, oh, this was junior year, so this is prime DJ one take. So I'm like, you know what? I was definitely tripping. And going back to the point of me tripping, this just reminded me. So my boy, again, I'm name dropping, my boy Trey, I remember freshman year, we're in center court or in the main cafeteria. It's a late night. I think it was one of those recovery dinners after you just kicked it the day before. It's like we're about to go get a huge meal. We recovering. So somehow the topic of religion comes up as it does, or what you believe in and what your faith is. And this is my freshman year. So probably about halfway through my first semester. So while I'm turned up, and the conversation of God comes up. It's me, my boy Trey, and then a few other friends. And there's a conversation like, not is he real, but like basically judging his character and talking about who God was and what he's done. Just regular conversation. And my boy Trey, he's spitting the knowledge to him. And they're just back and forth conversation. The whole time I'm silent. I told y'all I grew up in church. I had great teachers, so I knew the word to some degree. But while he's talking and while he's basically talking good, I'm like, my chest is hurting. I'm like, ooh, he know all this stuff. I know all this stuff, but only one of us is really saying that we know this stuff. And I'm like, my chest hurting. I'm like, ooh, I don't like how I'm feeling. So I hit them with whatever excuse. I put my stuff away. I start walking back to my dorm. And while I'm walking back to my dorm, I just start crying, bro. Like on the way there, I'm crying. I try to pull it together before I walk into my dorm room because it was before COVID, so it was 2 bunk beds, so 4 of us in just a bigger size room. But I'm just like, man, what I'm doing is not right, and I know it's not right. So I was like, whew. So I went to sleep. I woke up, and I was fine. I had the feeling I was convicted, but I wasn't about to change. So yeah, I think that's very important to kind of see that it wasn't like it was just all freedom. God was speaking, but my mind was already made up in terms of what I needed to do. So again, back to junior year, like I'm turned up essentially, and then heading into senior year. Well, before we go into senior year, as I'm talking about my junior year in terms of me having notoriety at different campuses, because now I'm DJing. At Xavier, DJing in Miami, NKU. I was well known. But whole time, I'm depressed. Whole time, I'm just not happy. Like, I'm not fulfilled. A lot of times, I would leave parties, if I was sober enough, just pondering, like, what am I doing? And it's like, it just was never enough. Like, it would be more people at a party. It would be more money, like, for me to be making in college. Just being honest with y'all, like I'll be talking to my friends, and I was playing like I didn't just make $1,000 DJing for 2 hours at an event. So it's like everything that I thought I wanted in college, I was getting, but I was going to sleep just like, bro, this ain't it. Whether it was women, whether it was turning up, even if it was grades, like I said, when I was in college, I was just chasing and chasing and chasing, but nothing was really obtainable. It was all just essentially going up in smoke as soon as I got it. Um, so going into senior year, I know junior year was my peak in terms of what I wanted, but my senior year, as I would hope everybody does, I start to calm down. Like things just weren't as fun. I was still getting recognized. Like this was when people was coming up to me saying, "Hey, bro, you DJ one take?" And I was like, "Yes, bro." They dapped me up. Somebody asked me to get a picture, and I was like, "Y'all have gone too far, dude. I just failed my algebra test, and you asking for a picture." So yeah. Now while all this is going on, it's the same kind of just cycle of me chasing um, things that just don't have a ceiling. Things that I'll never have enough. Like I'll never have enough security, never have enough money, never have enough women. Um, it just wasn't doing what I thought that it would do for me, as I said. So again, um, as I got into senior year, things were slowing down. And your senior year, you're supposed to be focusing on what's after college, and that was kind of my goal. Kind of circling back, once 2023 hits, because I graduated in 2023, that's when I was like, all right, let me lock in. I stopped saying yes to so many DJing events. I stopped going to as many kick-its. I was like, bro, I need to get a job. It was like all this college stuff was cool, and I'm known as the man, but I'm not about to be known as the man with no job. So I started applying in my head early. So like January, I'm getting interviews, but I'm not getting results. So remember the first job I applied for, didn't end up getting it, but they found out I was a DJ because on my resume I said I DJ'd. So they gave me a job for that. So I was like, all right, I'll take it. Next interview, because of the things that I was doing on campus, I was getting into so many college honoraries. And this was a connection with a dude that I met because of the honorary. And I'm like, all right, bro, I'm in there. Denial letter. I'm like, all right, bet. So I do another interview for another company. It's through the frat. Make it to the second interview, denied. So now it's like March. People getting job offers. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm like, bro, I might be cooked because I'm like, I'm graduating in a month, and people asking you like, what's next? And I'm putting extra pressure on myself because everything that was going on in college, I'm having my way. But I'm not having my way with this in particular. So it's just confusing and it's new to me. So I do another job application, denied. I do another job application, and it's all from me being like, look at my resume, look what I've done. I'm going into it with my own strength, denied. And graduation is coming up, and I'm like, bro, I kind of want to enjoy my last month of college. I'll get back to it after I graduate. So, graduate college, have application, or I have 2 job interviews with this company. I'm saying the name because they kind of did me dirty. First Financial. It just goes great. It goes so great, and they ghost me for a month. Well, first of all, it goes so great that I don't apply to anywhere else. But I'm waiting for a month and I don't hear back. So now, not only do I get a denial letter a month later, and I'm putting all my eggs in one basket, but they denied me again 2 days later because they were like, we don't know if we sent you this email. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting double denied. So now this is maybe mid-May. I do another job application. Basically, I don't want to go through all of them, but I'm getting denied. Denial after denial after denial. And these doors are getting shut. And it's not making sense to me because I have everything on paper. I have it in my mind. And not only do I have it in my mind, but I'm pulling up to these job interviews playing gospel music. So God is on my side. But throughout my stint of unemployment, May, June, like June hits, my birthday is June 15th. And I'm not celebrating because I'm like, it's nothing to celebrate. Job's not finished. So throughout that time of me being unemployed, I'm blessed enough to have a little bit of money saved up because of DJing. So I'm not stressing as much, but I'm just feeling hopeless. I'm feeling powerless. And throughout all that time, I started reading self-help books. self-help books, and I start listening to podcasts, start listening to ET, just doing everything in my power and my strength to keep myself going, keep myself pushing. But throughout that same time, like, all I have is time on my hands. So I don't want to just lay around all day. I'm taking every opportunity to do whatever. Whether it's helping my friend move, it's like, bro, I'm not doing nothing else, I'll be there. Or whether it's just I'm saying yes to all the invites. And I get invited back to church, which, like I said, from 5 to 17, I was there every Sunday. But throughout my college years, I was there 4 times. I could count on one hand how many times I went to church. So I go back to church for the first time, and the pastor, it was actually the first lady preaching. She had a great sermon, but as most sermons, I only remember one thing from it. It was that there's a difference between reading the word and studying the word. And I was like, Throughout all my years, I'm 21 years old at this point, I have never thought about what studying the word looks like. Because, like I said, I would go to services, I would leave going the same way I would leave the same way that I came in, because I wasn't really in a place where I was really listening. Like, it wasn't for me. It was like motivational speaking. It was like, let me just take what I need and I'm out of here. And I hadn't really heard the word for myself. So when I got home, opened up one of these Bibles, I read it, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm good. Because the first verse, the first section of the Bible that I read was in Matthew. It was talking about, it was a Sermon on the Mount. This was the first time I really read the Bible for myself, and I realized who Jesus was. And it wasn't the Jesus that people had portrayed. It wasn't the Jesus that the media portrays, or the Jesus that I made up in my head. It was Jesus speaking for himself. So I'm reading it, and it's turning my whole world upside down, because it was a Sermon on the Mount. First thing that I read is telling me stuff like, if I look at a woman with lustful intent, I've already sinned. And it's saying, like, I gotta love my enemy. It's just too good, and it was too convicting. I'm like, bro, I think I'm cool. So I read the Sermon on the Mount, and then randomly I read a verse that was saying that teachers would be judged more harshly than students. So I'm like, okay, first of all, I think I'm cool on reading the word, because I wanted to know less so that I could still get by doing what I was doing, because I can use the excuse that I don't know. And also, I came with the conclusion that I'm never teaching nobody, because I'm not trying to get judged more harshly. But as time went on, whole time, I think I may have been unemployed for about 4 months, but it felt like 4 years, because time was just moving slower. I had more questions than answers, and I had no power. So it just led me back to the only thing that was stable in my life, and that was Christ. Like, it not only did I go to church that one time, I came back the next week, and then I came back the next week, and the things that I learned in college, I was like, I think that this church, because it's a smaller church, it's Word of Life Empowerment in Cincinnati, smaller church now, but I was seeing the things that I learned in college, and I was like, I think this church could benefit by some of the things that I've learned practically. So I started getting involved with their media and started getting involved with them. But I was like, we're going to keep it at that. But as I started getting more pressed towards the fact that I wasn't where I needed to be in life, and I felt powerless, I was like, the only thing that has power in my life right now is the word. Because all my friends, they were giving me good advice, but it wasn't sustaining me. Like, it would help me keep going for three hours, or those videos that I would watch that were motivational would keep me going for 30 minutes. And I'm like, bro, I'm cool. I'm hopeless. So I'm trying to keep it pushing forward, just for the sake of time. So again, as I'm going to church more consistently, I finally break down, and I'm like, I'm going to study the word for once. And going back to my history of where I went to church, in my childhood, I had a great teacher named, I'm saying his name, Brother Paul McGee. And actually, I texted him saying that I wanted to learn how to, I wanted to learn how to read the word or study the word, and I knew he was a great teacher. And he gave me this book, and it was perfect timing because he was looking for somebody to kind of test run it. And because of that book, I started studying. And when you study the word for real and you pray and you ask God, like, help me understand what you're saying, it's kind of like, it's like eating one Pringle. It's like you can't just eat one. It was just so, I was learning so much, and I was learning at a pace and a speed that it couldn't be me. Like the way that it was being revealed and the way that things were making sense, because people can come to the word now, and I can read one chapter, you can read one chapter, somebody else can read one chapter. I may get none from it, you may get none from it, but somebody else can have a whole 10-week lesson because of what they heard. And God was just revealing to me because I was seeking. But at first I was seeking so I can get a job, but then as my heart changed. Like I was getting changed because I knew that originally I started reading because I wanted something from him. But when I went and started studying for myself, I had it with the intent of what can I give to God? And when I give to God, I know I can't be God given, so he's going to return it back to me. So I'm studying. This is now July. And I'm studying, and with studying, I start praying a little bit more. I'm listening to podcasts, and I'm applying it to what I'm listening to. I'm starting to figure out what I need to be doing with my life, because I forgot the prayer that I prayed. Like as soon as I graduate, I'm getting right back, but God didn't. And it was time for me to pay what I owe. Like it's like getting a telephone call. I said telephone, a cell phone call, and you know it's a bill collector. And it's like if I answer this call, I'm gonna have to pay something. And I was getting called, and I didn't want to pick up because I knew I was gonna have to pay God back. Not pay him back, but I would have to give up something. So throughout studying, throughout reading, I get to Daniel, and I was essentially what I heard, and I don't have time, but the first time I really ever heard from God was when he told me that I needed to do this Daniel's fast. So I went 10 days, I did a fast, and I was just like, okay. So I fasted for the first time on my own. The first day that I did the fast, I applied to a job. They got back to me the second day of the fast. Had my interview the fourth day of the fast. Had my second interview the seventh day of the fast. I got my offer letter on the eighth day of the fast. So I wasn't even done fasting before God can do something, before God did what he said that he was going to do in my life. So I got my job and it just made me realize that everything that I've done in the past, I always thought it was my own strength, but it was always God's strength. Like I thought that as soon as I got the job, I was like, look what happened when I rely on God's strength. But everything that I've done has always been God's strength. I just didn't recognize it, and I didn't care to look for it. So as I started studying for myself, as soon as Brother Paul gave me the book, he told me that you're going to want to share this with others. And I was like, no, I'm not. I already read the verse about what's going to happen if I start teaching to others. And as soon as I got the job, it was like half of what God wanted me to do. It was like, yeah, you got it for yourself, but there's this whole generation. And there's people that you're connected to that he's put me in situations and giving me opportunities, not just for me, but it's for others. So now I'm doing what he's telling me to do. I'm doing things that I don't want to do, like this. And the Bible study that I do, because I put a lot of time and I put a lot of effort into it, but it takes up a good chunk of my week. And beforehand, like I was just very focused on what's in it for me. And I skipped over the verse, but the verse that I had over when I graduated college was John 15:5, which reads, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So I was at a point where I realized that apart from him, I can do nothing. And either I can just keep running and attempting to do what I want on my own strength, or I can just say yes and essentially let him do what he wants to do, because no matter what, it's going to happen. I don't know how much sense that made, but the point that I'm trying to make as I talk about where I am now, which is what I'm going to close with. When I look back at the past like year and a half or 2 years and seeing the change that God has made in my life, I recognize that the only time I've made progress is when I've said yes. The only times I've moved forward is when I said yes to asking God, saying yes to what God has for me. And when I think about my testimony, not only was it about my employment, not only was it about my ego being killed, not only was it about me letting go of the things of the past and knowing that what's in front of me is greater than what's behind me, but it's about people that need to be in contact with the word. Essentially, it's not about me, is what I'm trying to say. Everything that I'm doing has been for the benefit of the other of others. Of course, I'm getting a little reciprocal of it. Like he's sprinkling it on me, but I've come to a point, and I'm not saying this like I'm perfect, and I'll get into that, whether it's I do another video or whether it's my Wednesday Bible studies. But I'm extremely transparent. I still mess up. I'm still not where I need to be, but I'm definitely not where I used to be. All right, so the last verse that I have is Revelation 12:11, and it says, "And they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. They loved not their lives unto the death." And I kind of want to close out with this. The reason that I did this video is because not only is this testimony powerful for myself to one, let people know how open and transparent that I am, so that the enemy can't use it against me, even though people might use it against me. But two, to encourage people that what they're going through or whatever they're looking for, there's only one answer, and his name is Jesus. I'm not, like I said in the very beginning, this isn't something that I'm looking for a massive audience. I would appreciate if it wasn't. As I get more transparent and as I kind of just dive deeper into what God is calling me to speak to, and what people need to hear, that I'm observing. So I just want to open it up for y'all to kind of search and kind of reflect on your own lives, whether you're in a place where you've been brought out of something, or you feel like you're in the middle of something, or you're heading into something. Just think about what that solution may be, and where have you been looking to get that power from? Am I looking and am I seeking the one who has all power? And is what I'm going through for the sake to know that I don't have all that power, and God is doing this because I'm truly powerless. And as you reflect and as you think about what your next step should be, I want to encourage y'all to know that the more that you seek God's face and not his hand, the more that you say yes to the will of the Lord, the more that you say yes to God, the only thing that will come from it is good fruit. And with that good fruit, we get the true reward, which is the kingdom of heaven. And yeah, man, I don't really have an official closing. I don't really have anything that I want to just leave y'all with, because unfortunately for me, I feel like I'm coming back. I feel like I'm doing another one of these. And the reason, and let me tell y'all, I was trying to book a studio and they ghosted me. Like, I was trying for months. Like I said, this has been on my mind for a good little minute. And I was like, bro, it was cheaper to buy this equipment than it was to book for the few hours that I would need it. So yeah, man, I first want to thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for tuning in. If y'all made it to the end, Um, and again, like I said, this isn't really for the person in Connecticut I never met, but people that are in my sphere. If you got questions or anything that you want to hit me up about, or anything you want me to expand upon, um, I invite y'all to, whether it's a DM or whether you got my number. Um, yeah, man. That's all I got. I'm sure. Unfortunately for me, I'll see y'all next time. But again, it's not about what I want; it's about what the Lord wants. So, y'all be easy.